With me, I'm first. Hi, go me. My name is Chloe. I go on Twitter by ChloeWrightVA. You can find me at a Joy Stealer. And then I'm from The Legend of the Table. We're an awesome group of LGBTQIA voices. We do 3 campaigns a week on Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday, all at 8:30 Central. So definitely come check us out if you haven't already. And I guess I'm just here to provide comic relief with wacky accents, or at least that's what usually my job is. I don't know if that's what I'm providing right now, but
Well, thank you so much for coming on and hanging out with me tonight and all of our
Always.
guests. I'm so excited to have you. And a familiar face to a lot of people here, Cyclone Jack.
Hi, how's it going? I'm Cyclone Jack. I'm a full-time Twitch streamer, involved in multiple communities for tabletop gaming. You guys may have seen me in some other channels and doing a bunch of different stuff. I'm a competitive mech pilot, a former pro Overwatch player, and I lead up part of the management team for a 5M GTA RP server called Day to Day that is recently about to relaunch. I've also spent 15 years in emergency services as a firefighter EMT.
Well, thank you so much for coming to hang out tonight, and it's always a pleasure to have you back on the stream. So I'm excited that it worked out for you to come and hang out tonight.
Absolutely, it's always great to be here with you guys.
Yes. And joining us from all the way across the Atlantic pond, we have James Core.
Hi, I'm just James, or just call me James.
Okay.
I'm from Chambers of Roleplay. There is a reason, and yeah, I stream on twitch.tv/James Corp. RPGs, mainly non-D&D style games. Even though I am doing a D&D game in January, which we're going to be doing Curse of Strahd. And yeah, we've got a convention coming up, which we've been arranging on the 19th of December, which is completely free, and there's still probably about 14 games that still need people to fill up and play, and it's completely free. So check out the Warhorn site and sign up.
Definitely. I believe, yes, the link got dropped in chat, so if you're interested, go check out that Warhorn site, and you can see all the different games and everything. It's actually like a nice midday time for a lot of us East Coasters. It might be kind of early for those of you that are on the Pacific, or if you feel like staying up ridiculously late in Hawaiian time, then you might be okay. And next we're going to head over to Christopher.
Looks like we just lost someone, actually.
We did lose somebody.
oh no,
We lost Nikki. Oh no.
woman down.
If I move to the left, you can see kind of my face.
You just gotta, you just have to sort of, you've got to do like remember that old show like Home Improvement? You just got to kind of get like your
there she
nose and
comes,
eyeline
there
in
she
there.
comes.
Peek over.
Anyway, my name is Chris. I am the owner of Scald's Tale Entertainment LLC. Currently, we have 2 projects going. My own podcast, Wyvern's Aria, which is high magic meets cyberpunk and lots of dragons and those sort of things. Lots of music, too. And we recently brought in Throwing Bones, which is Monsters of the Week. It's a queer-led podcast that features a bunch of high school teachers, saving their students, effectively, and dealing with their own trauma. We have a couple other projects coming at 2021, but we'll save those announcements for another time.
All right. Well, thanks so much for coming to hang out tonight. And Nikki, we're going to go to you and have you introduce yourself.
Yes.
So tell us a little about who you are and where we can find you online.
Chicken. All right. Can you guys hear me, because I keep on
now.
dropping
You were
off.
having like some weird tech stuff happening. I don't know, but
You are lagging.
I don't know what's going on. I dropped there for a while. I didn't even get a chance. I didn't even hear most of the introduction.
oh no.
I am Nikki. Me now? Am I? I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, no, we could hear you, and then as soon as you said your name, you kind of cut out
All
for a second.
floated away.
I think she's hearing us later than the rest of us, so
Yeah, there's
she's
a little
like
bit of
a
a delay,
few
it
seconds
sounds like.
delayed.
Yeah. Nikki, do you want to try
I'm
rebooting
not
your
sure
Discord
what's
or?
happening here. Yeah, I'm gonna see what I can figure out here, and I'll be right back.
Okay, sounds good.
Sorry.
Nope, that's okay. We'll shift everybody so that they're at least in their spaces while she's gone, so.
Sounds good.
But in the interim, while she gets that all squared away, I'm going to start us off with a question. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to talk about the giveaway. So we are doing a giveaway. As a lot of you that are already in our Discord know, we love cookies here at Shared Experience. We are big fans of cookies. That's why we partnered with Critical Hit Cookie to provide a 10% discount on orders. Hi, Coffin! And the other thing is we also discovered that December 4th is now our new favorite holiday at Shared Experience because it's National Cookie Day. So as a celebration of National Cookie Day, we are giving away 12 cookies from Critical Hit Cookie. Any choice that you would like. And she does have gluten-free and sugar-free options available as well. So if you would like to enter, !ticket. And you can be entered to win a dozen cookies from Critical Hit Cookie. So we'll put that out there. We're going to run that all the way to the end of the stream, and we'll draw the winner at the end. You do have to be present to win, though, so please stick around. So the next thing that I would like to talk about, I'm going to slide you over, Chris, so you're not in the middle of nowhere. And the next thing I would like to ask everybody to get this conversation going is what is on your TTRPG holiday wish list this year? And
Holiday. That's right. The holidays are coming up, aren't they?
They are coming up. So
what month is it? It's like December. I feel like it was March at some point, and then I slowly lost
like
track
March
of when it was.
December.
The longer it went. So on Legend of the Table, we actually stream Pathfinder 2nd Edition, which I guess is like a kind of newer rule set. It was released this past year.
Yeah.
And they have like a ton of books that they've come out with, and we have like the PDF copies of all of them, but I've just been slowly growing my horde of paperbacks, so that's kind of a lot of what's stacking up my wish list. I asked some of my players for the Bestiary 2, the second monster manual, basically.
Nice.
For Christmas, which they know is a double-edged sword, because anytime they gift me monsters, they know that they're going to have to immediately turn around and deal with them. So.
Excellent.
I was actually going to echo that. Actually, I run Pathfinder 2nd Edition. I work as a full-time game master. Skull's Tale Entertainment works with private clients to run games online for community building and all that stuff for some businesses, and I forced them all over to Pathfinder 2nd Edition once it came out from 5th Edition. And I got all the PDFs. I got the main core rulebook, but I would like to get the bestiaries because they're so neat. There's so many cool mechanics.
Have you checked out the Advanced Player's Guide yet?
I have. Yeah, there's
love it.
The archetype system is pretty cool.
I'm playing it. So on our stream, I'm the DM of 2 of the games, and there are 2 games that I play in. And in one of the games I'm playing one of the new Oracle classes, and it is so much fun. I play this vampire Oracle that has the Curse of Life, so they're constantly fighting themselves. It's great.
Oh, wow.
It's so RP heavy, that system. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah,
they're not a sponsor, but I'm shilling for Paizo anyway, as if they were. That's my goal.
That's okay, because we actually play a Paizo game on our Wednesday night.
Hey!
We play a 1st edition, so it's okay.
Awesome. They're good.
For Christmas, for the holidays, I lost a box set that some of you older gamers may recognize. It's red, it's about that big. It's got dice that you had to fill in the numbers with crayons. And I got it from my uncle before he passed away.
Oh.
And 3 years ago we moved into the home that I'm living in now after I picked it up. And the box went missing when we moved here. So I was hoping to possibly find one. Although it's not like a serious to-do, it's something that I'm really looking for.
Is that 1st or 2nd edition? I can't remember that red box.
That's before 1st. That was
Before
changed.
1st. Yeah. No, I remember seeing one in like the first game store I ever went to, but I've never like actually gotten my hands on one. That's very
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, it's way back in the day. So yeah, it was something near and dear. I started playing back in the day, and it was that book and a stack of character sheets from my uncle, who had a ninja, and who taught me how to play and sit down and showed me all the rules, and we played, me and him, for a couple of years. So it was pretty cool.
That's very cool.
Respect for anyone who played back in the Thaco days. The dark era of D&D.
Something like that.
I guess it's me. I don't know. I don't know what I want for Christmas. I can't really afford Christmas, so I don't know if I'm gonna do it. Really, I don't know. Maybe some Warhammer stuff, like Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. I wouldn't mind getting some of the additional books, and maybe a non-limited edition rule book, so I can actually feel like I should, use it rather than like leaving it on the shelf to like not be used because it's limited edition. And you don't want to like drag that through the dirt, do you really? Maybe I think, is it Band of Blades? I think maybe is on the radar as well. But I probably won't get that till next year. I don't know. I haven't really got a clue what I want. Christmas is not really my time of year. I'd rather like sleep through the entire of December and wake up 1st of January.
That's fair.
Bar humbug and all that. But I do have a legitimate reason.
Oh goodness. Well, that's all right. It's not for everybody, but trying to think. I was like, there's got to be something. I think it's just more, like more resource books, or for different books for different systems. There's a lot of different systems out there that I would love to get my hands on the physical copy of the book. I have the PDF, like the Quest RPG system. I have the PDF of the book, but I don't have the physical copy. And from what I hear, it's a beautiful book. So I would just really like to add that to my collection. But
is that for beginner? Is that sort of designed for beginner to get people into like?
It definitely,
is it designed up?
It definitely could be used for beginners to get them into it because it's more role play based than it is like die roll heavy. But it's also just a lot of fun. It's great for like one shots and stuff too.
Yeah, I remember it being very heavy on like kind of the fluff. Sort of, it reminded me of like all those Powered by the Apocalypse systems where it's kind of more about like what you do with the rules than what the rules can do.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
I love Powered by the Apocalypse Worlds games.
Yeah. I got to play.
You might like Quest then. They're similar.
Yeah, it's I got to play a one shot of it, and that's kind of exactly what it was. Is you'd kind of read this is what this skill does, and then it would be like, okay, but how do you tweak that to fit the situation? I was actually just the one shot that I played just got released as a podcast last week, and I was re-listening to it because it had been a while since I. We recorded it back in July, and there was one thing that we did, and I was like, well, I can light stuff up, and I can do this, and I can do the other thing, and they were like, but can you make something really bright? And I was like, oh, yeah, like, I could do that. So I could, like, light something up and make it super bright, because we couldn't disguise the thing that we were trying to hide, so instead we just made it super bright so nobody would want to look at it.
Very nice. That's, I feel like light manipulate... Minor tangent, but we just finished our Extra Life stream about like 2 weeks ago.
Nice.
We were doing our charity stream, and we did like a superhero-based game that was powered by the apocalypse called Masks, and it lets you do a lot of like kind of creating your own superpowers. And that's actually the one that I ended up DMing the game just by drawing the short straw. But like if I was playing, that was actually the power I wanted. Like I always thought like, oh, if I could just like make lights change slightly, like if I could manipulate light waves, that's like a super cool underrated superpower. You make things super bright, no one can see anything. You just change a wave slightly and someone's basically invisible.
Yeah.
Light bending, you could focal point stuff into a laser.
Right?
There you go.
Totally.
I could just localize, if you could just localize where you manipulate the light, all of a sudden just you have crazy illusion magic all over the place.
I'm digging it.
All right. Well, we got a question in from chat, so I would like to
Ooh.
pose that to everybody. David Tilstra, oh my gosh, also known as Brunswick Lane Guini. He and I played in a charity stream earlier today. He would like to know, when did you realize you were hooked on TTRPGs? Like, was there a moment or an adventure you had that sealed the deal?
Yeah, I can start.
Go for it.
I've been playing games my whole life, tabletop games. I started with the Champion system, Hero system, I think it was called. But when I was in college, we were playing the 5th edition playtest, and I got invited to be on a podcast. It was called Low Rollers, and I made a character, and at this point, I was just sort of playing these kind of dungeon crawl type games, but I made a dwarf monk, and it ended up being a time travel storyline. You go a couple hundred years in the future, and there was this sequence where I had my character kind of like hitting on the broken down wall of his old home, and he was just hitting across it and just hitting and like beating up his hands and fists as he does this. And I think at that moment I kind of learned that there is an art form to this. There is things you can do that you couldn't necessarily do in any other medium, and thus kind of adjusted my career path based on that. Stopped doing music, started doing this sort of stuff. So
Awesome.
I think
That's
that was
very
the
cool.
defining moment.
That's very cool. I guess I could go next. So I started really young. I went to like a private academy for primary school because my family moved around a lot between different states and sometimes countries.
Do they understand what primary school is?
I hope so.
We do most.
Oh, right. Elementary.
Elementary
like,
school. Some people
yeah, like-
still call it primary school, though.
Right. This is what I mean. I occasionally will just throw in these British English because of my family. But yeah. So not primary school, elementary school is when I went to an academy. And so I went to this private academy that was very interesting, where they had kind of a lot of the electives were more sort of freeform, where the kids kind of got to determine what they were doing. And there was a group of older students who were playing 2nd edition D&D, like Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And I always wanted to play with them, but I think at the time I was like 9 or 10, I was just like a little too young to really understand the rules, so that always discouraged me. But it was like that thing that was kind of hanging there that I wanted to be a part of. After they finished their campaign, they wanted to do a game where they kind of had modulated the rules, kind of homebrewed, to do superheroes, because they were all big comic book nerds. So they were doing a Justice League campaign, where like one of them was Batman, one of them was Superman. These kids, I mean, like it was very loose RPG stuff. But they had one seat left at the table, which finally, as like kind of the younger kid that no one liked, like I got a chance to go in because nobody wanted to play Wonder Woman, because it was all young adolescent boys. No one was super hyped. But they were like, oh, well, this makes sense because we're doing this Justice League story. And I was like, I will gladly play Wonder Woman. I get a chance to get in here. And for those of you who don't know, LGBTQ podcast, I'm a transgender woman. This was the first time I ever really had the opportunity to like play a game as female. Like I had never played any video games like that or anything. So I got to play Wonder Woman, and it was like this super empowering and fun experience for me. I wouldn't end up coming out until like 10 years later, but I always remember that as the first moment that I really kind of like knew my gender identity, and TTRPGs were a huge part of that. So I've been really linked to them ever since. Like I've never wanted to not be playing, and when I'm not, I'm going mad.
So I guess that leaves me.
I've still got to go as well, but you can go before
There's
me.
no particular order, so feel free to jump in whenever.
So growing up to a certain age, I was the rough and tumble, the gym, the sports, the range, the working on cars, the G.I. Joes and action movies and all this stuff. And I wasn't part of the nerd community, as it were, back in the day. And miraculously, when my uncle and my cousin were moving, as I was mentioning before, I stumbled across a box with the name Chainmail on it. And I was never big into reading in the first place either, and I saw this stuff and I was like, character sheets, papers, dice, pencils, crayons. Alright, what's this stuff? And my uncle sat me down and he ran me an hour-long one-shot. and my eyes were opened, and I went, wait a minute, this is like, such and such He-Man. This is like, so-and-so, and I get to play the hero. Hold on, I'm not confined by video game rules. I can do whatever. There's a way to... What? Excuse me? I have a brain box? Hold on. Yeah, wait a minute. I've seen this game. It's like Highlander. I'm in.
Oh, I just rewatched that movie yesterday. Totally just not related, but...
And I totally got lost. The problem was that after they moved, I had no one to run a game for me for the longest time. Q 8th grade. And I was getting ready to graduate, and I met friends in the high school that were getting ready to be seniors. And they were running a tabletop game, and I met them through friends of friends of friends. And that summer was the first summer that I spent 90% of my time indoors at a friend's house. Literally sitting in my friend's basement, writing character sheets, rolling dice, picking out on junk food, and not spending time in the gym, at the range, or under the hood of some random muscle car that my dad or one of my older friends owned. And it was the most amazing, fun experience I've ever had, and it totally flipped the script on what I believe turned me into the person that I am today. I owe a lot to tabletop gaming, and I truly believe that it shaped who I am today.
I started in '93, never stopped. There we go, still going. 27 years later, nearly 28. As in 28 years, I'm not 28 years old, I'm a bit older. Yeah, I've never stopped playing RPGs. I sort of had an inkling from a little bit earlier. There is a previous video where I don't know if that still counts, but yeah, started with it's just been re-released, Hero Quest. That was the first game I started on. It wasn't role play, but it was board game similar style, and then just went from there, and that was my gateway, and then never looked back. Spent more money than God knows what on different RPGs. But yeah, have I played them all? No. Would I play them all? Probably not. They're just there. If I need to sell them, I'll sell them. Some of them might be worth a bit of money. But yeah, no. It's just I like games that interest me. If the game doesn't interest me, I'm not going to bother with it.
That makes a lot of sense. If you're not interested by the game, you're not going to enjoy your playing experience, so... That's my theory, anyway. Alright.
Has to have something inspiring to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always different too, because I initially got into TTRPGs because someone was doing superheroes, and that was very genre-y. But then the group that I played with for a long time in high school, I had a group of my friends were mostly kind of jocks, so I had to kind of get them in by tricking them. I was like, hey, you know how you all really like that here Call of Duty? What if we were all to be military operatives, but you weren't constrained by how unbalanced P90s or whatever were? I had to trick people into getting them to play the game.
I know that feeling a little too well.
Yeah, right. You just gotta be all right, what is the angle I can get people? You're just low key dealing drugs. Just what is the angle I can get you hooked on? How do I snare you in and start reeling you?
We're all just
Absolutely
enablers.
perfect.
That's what it is.
Oh, in 2003, you really liked their Return of the King movie, did you? Well, what if I told you that they did make a game of it, and not on GameCube, my friends? No, we could play it right now.
It's in your mind.
Somebody start throwing dice at him.
Oh. That's usually my theory, is just to throw dice at people and be like, look at the shiny click-clacks.
Well, it's funny because so my group is way younger now, I think, than any group I've ever my current cast over at the Legend of the Table is way younger than any group I've ever played with before. I'm actually one of the older ones, which is scary to me. I'm not the oldest, thank goodness. I would be scared, but I'm one of the older ones. And so they all, now in like this new world, like a lot of the younger members of my group first got into it with Critical Role. And like watching RPG streams like, all of the lovely ones we're promoting here, like that kind of internet culture first got them in. And it's so different, like in terms of what initially attracted me to D&D, where I was like enticed in by these like crunchy numbers and things, versus people who are like, oh no, like I want to get into voice acting, and D&D is the way to do that. And that's like how they on-ramped in some cases, which is so different to me.
That's what did it for me, actually.
Really?
Yeah. I got my first voice acting gig because of an old show that me and Luna were on.
Nice.
Yep. True story. All right. Well, Amanda had a question for everybody, and she would like to know, in what ways have TTRPGs had a positive influence on your life?
Well, I'll go first.
Go for it.
Everyone's all right. So I've been furloughed since March, and I'd probably have gone out of my mind if I didn't have something to do. Because, however many months it's been now since that time, with all the lockdowns that this country's gone through, I would have met the people that I've met this year. And I've actually had a really good year of meeting lots of new people, most of them around my age, most of them with like it's the same mentality that I've got, the same sense of humour. Two of them are even Americans, and they get my sarcastic sense of humour. So that's pretty good in my book. But yeah, I would have met some of the amazing people I've met this year. I wouldn't have had the chances I had this year if it wasn't for being furloughed, because I work weekends, and I'd have missed out on everything that happened. Yeah. That's positive, I think, right?
Definitely.
Oh, very. No.
I think so.
Finding Americans who understand British humor, that's like my whole challenge with finding an audience for our channel. No, that's awesome. No, I mean, I would, like, that's kind of how I feel as well. Like, just the TTRPGs, especially, like, since I've started playing on, like, Discord or, like, Roll20, the ability to, like, have the internet as a way to make connections is really negative, except for in the TTRPG space, in my experience, right? Like, I played like League of Legends and Battlefield and like had friends I would play those games with, but I never really had the kind of like relationships that I've had through TTRPGs. I actually, one of my castmates, who's incredibly talented, Izzy at IzzyCats on Twitter, I'm actually dating them, and we met initially online through TTRPGs. So we've been in a relationship for like 2.5 years now, and I never would have had that if not for us both signing up to the same really terrible game and kind of agreeing together that we could go make a better one. So even in like a kind of a questionable circumstance, I found that TTRPGs really do a good job of bringing people together.
That's always been my thing with it, is that the people that I've met sort of along the way, especially in the last like 2 years since I've been doing it, streaming it, I've just met some of the most amazing, kind, friendly, cheerful, uplifting people, and it's really broadened my horizons in a lot of ways. And I think too, I didn't get furloughed, but like James, I started, like, I just was home a lot. I was working from home and, all of that stuff over the last year. So this really gave me something to look forward to and people to connect with, even if it's virtually or digitally, without having to leave the safety and comfort of my home.
Man, those are such good answers. That I'm like sitting here, like, well, it's my job, so I'm very grateful that I can like take care of my wife and my daughter. But it's kind of cool that there's like an artistic form that people are willing to support, and there's always a question about perceived value versus the actual value of what you do and that sort of thing. But it gave me a job, and I've been full-time game mastering for about 3 years now. When I couldn't get a job, I got into a really bad car accident a few years ago, and I couldn't do the work I had to, and found a place to, pay rent, which was kind of neat. And I think there are a lot of impactful moments where you can provide this escapism for the people you play with, be it clients or your friends or, a show and an audience. Escapism is quite critical, especially in 2020, at least in my experience. People come and like crave to see things. And I do, I'm Asian American, so I do a lot of Chinese inspired storylines. So, they get to go in there, they get to see things that aren't, Greco-Roman or, Norse inspired things, and they get to enjoy that. So it's really nice to be able to impact people in a certain way. And I find that my fulfillment in tabletop role-playing is allowing people to explore themes that they may not be able to explore, and in a way that's not, going outside and dealing with real-world problems. They still get to explore these ideas without the stress of reality, I guess.
Yeah, I feel that.
Influence from TTRPGs to my life. If I'm honest, it instilled the ability and the thought process, no matter who you are, what walk of life you come from, what you do, that you can be a hero. And I think I was 20 years old, 19 years old, and I had dropped out of college and I was looking for work. And a buddy of mine who was also unemployed, were driving around in a car together looking for work after getting fired from our latest position. And I was reclined back in the seat, feeling defeated, smoking a cigarette, and he looks at me and he goes, "Jack, why don't we go be firefighters?" And I go, "What?" He goes, "We play heroes all the time on the weekends. Why don't we try to be real life heroes? Let's go be firefighters." And I went, "Yeah, okay." Thinking this guy's full of it, right? But no, he looks at me and he goes, "All right, cool, there's a firehouse like a quarter mile from your house." So we roll up into the parking lot and we walk in, and a bunch of kids that I went to high school with were members. And they're looking at me like, "What is this kid doing here?" And we fill out the applications. That weekend, we get together with all of our tabletop group, and Spencer and I are sitting down at the table and we're messing with our character sheets, and Spencer opens his big Australian mouth and looks at the party and goes, "So Jack and I are going to be firefighters." And everybody at the table gets dead silent and does one of those like slow turns to the two of us at the end of the table. And I'm like silent looking at him like, "I'm gonna smack you." and Spencer goes, No, seriously, the firehouse by his house. We just went and filled out applications." Fast forward a month and a half later, and I had finished my application process, my interview, my physical, the blood work, everything was all done. And I was heading to my first day of the fire academy. Guess who wasn't in the truck next to me?
Oh no!
who never ended up going with me. And all I thought as I was going through the academy and I was showing up to classes and I was hanging out with the guys at, our RPG sessions after the fact, were I get to try to be a real life hero and help save people and be there when they're having horrible days. I get to actually do what my characters do. This is amazing. And it gave me the thought process that anyone could do it, and that maybe I could do it too. And I owe a lot of what I did in my life to RPGs because of that reason.
So RPGs impacted your life in a little bit, like just a minor way.
Tiny bit.
Tiny bit, yeah.
I'm like, well, how the heck are we supposed to follow that story up?
So Luna, tell me about how your profession really changed and your entire life was molded by TTRPGs.
It wasn't, because I was already in my career when I started playing TTRPGs. I actually, I was late coming to the TTRPG party, if you will, pun intended. And I didn't start playing until I was almost 26. Actually, no, I take that back. 27? 26 or 27. Anyway, right around there. I always say that it was my early 20s because in my head it was my early 20s, but it really was not. And so instead of so much affecting my career and that sort of thing, it more affected the things I do as a parent. Because I am now a single mom. I got divorced a couple years ago. And so getting into TTRPGs overall sort of impacted like what types of influences, like nerdy influences, if you will, that I share with my daughter, who is now almost 13. And you know, things that she now will like, you know, listen to or, you know, is interested in. There's an actual play podcast that I listen to, and she listens to it, or she had been listening to it, or I should say she was aware that I was listening to it in the car because I was binging the whole, like they had released close to 30 episodes by the time I started listening to them. And I had an hour-long commute to work. So I would listen to them in the car, you know, getting her to her grandparents' house or, you know, to school or whatever it was that, you know, we were doing. And so she lets me know all of a sudden one day that she'd actually been listening to them with me in the car, but she had her earphones in, so she didn't think I was listening. So I would think that she was not paying attention, but lo and behold, I find out she's actually an episode ahead of me in the podcast and has been listening to it on her own time. So I was like, oh, all right, this is a thing that we're doing together now. So now it's funny because the new episodes will drop, and even though we're home together all the time, like she'll be doing school stuff and I'll listen to it like while I'm doing work stuff so that we're not interrupting each other. And so then, you know, I'll finish it and I'll be like, did you listen to the latest episode? And she'll be like, oh my God, can you believe? You know, and it's like our little soap opera that we share now. So that in listening to it and things that I've gotten her into, it's really impacted me that way. So that's a lot of fun. But yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a good thing. It's a good thing to have. Actually, too, there's a system that I backed on Kickstarter that I should be getting the book for, I want to say in January. It's a system called Inspirials, and it's actually geared towards like teenagers and young, like very young adults. And part of it, it's actually written by someone from the UK, and so you can get two different versions of it. One version uses British Sign Language, the other will use American Sign Language. And so I backed the Kickstarter, and I've been telling my daughter about it, and she is actually interested in trying to play it. So I'm like, yes, you know, because this will be the first time that she's actually been old enough to, like, you know, want to sit down and isn't just like, right, you know, I'm just rolling the dice because that's what my mom and dad do when I'm 5 and it looks like fun, you know. So yeah,
very cool.
Yes, it's exciting. So I'm hoping that I can.
Now, have you ever like had to DM for like a new player who is also like a youth before? Because it's like wildly different.
I have never DM'd. Well, I shouldn't say never. I've DM'd once, and it was a disaster. And I've never DM'd since.
What went wrong?
So I will for her if she wants to do it with some of her friends, because I think I could handle like with newer players that are not looking to break my game. So
what went wrong? What do you think went wrong?
Oh, I could tell you exactly what went wrong. I was not prepared at all, and I had a player who was dead set on breaking my game. So that was pretty much it.
Oof.
Well, that's not really your fault then, really. Let's be honest. If they were deliberately setting out to break your game, that's just a dick player.
I mean, I've DM'd for, like 15 years now, including professionally, and I'm still kind of a disaster, so I don't think that that's really something you need to avoid. So, it doesn't change.
Yeah, I would like to get into it again. I actually have a goal to start doing, like, starting small with, like, some one-pagers and, like, just the stuff that's, like, not super involved, not super rules heavy, so that I can focus more on the storytelling and less on the rules of the game. Because I think that's my big struggle, is making sure that I'm doing both. But anyway.
How good are you at How good are you at improvising and thinking on the spot?
That's my other big weakness, is that I've never been able to pivot as fast as a group of players. I can pivot as a character, but...
Do you want a little tip?
Sure.
Listen to what the players say. Because sometimes they come up with better ideas than what you could even think of, and use that.
I've heard that repeatedly, yeah.
You could, with enough experience and listening to the players, you could wing an entire campaign without having to prepare anything.
I mean, I think, first of all, chat is very clearly willing to play a game for you if you ever do want to practice DMing. That's what I'm seeing clearly. But, no, like, it's sort of a weird analogy, but I always kind of felt like being a DM is actually more like being a politician in a lot of ways, because you're not really coming up with any original ideas. You're just manipulating ideas that other people came up with to make them sound like yours. You're hearing what your players want to do, or random ideas they have, or ideas that come from the book, and it's being like, if I twist it in this way, suddenly it was my idea. And the players are like, how did you come up with this? And my response is, I guess I just made it up. It wasn't something you said last week at all.
Oh gosh.
No, we just on kind of our like sort of main show at the Legend of the Table, the one that's been going the longest, I guess I'd say, which is called Fortour Fortunes, which is on Saturdays. We just finished episode 26, and there was this kind of big plot twist towards the end, where the king of one of our regions, who they knew was having like a summit with some of the other rulers of the land that the party was more familiar with. They're kind of all noble attaches. It invited all these other kind of leaders of the world to sort of this summit, and it turns out they scry into the meeting and they discover it was actually all a trap, and the king has brought all of them there to have kind of a red wedding style murder of some of the other world leaders. And the players were all just like, what? No way. And I'm like, do you not remember in like episode 14 you met this guy and you were like, this is totally never accept like a dinner invite from this guy, he'd poison your food or something. And I'm like, interesting. Woody. All right. I see what you're saying. And like 20 episodes later, and they're like, "What? How could we have seen this coming? If only someone had warned us." I'm like, "Yeah, well,
if only we knew.
If only we had thought of it."
Oh,
one of my players is currently in chat insisting they never trusted him. So I saw your face. It's fine.
Well, funny that you mentioned that person, because they asked the next question. So I'm going to bring that up. Hectic Vexer would like to know, what has been the most impactful moment you've ever experienced while playing, and how has it stuck with you?
A most impactful moment while playing. Glad we have the small questions. Don't need to think about that at all.
I know, right?
Yeah, right.
The next one is much lighter.
What does he mean by impactful? What exactly do you mean? Sorry, I've been a bit technical.
I guess what would have like I'm imagining like an impact on you, like as a person. Maybe is that Hectic? You wanna?
Yeah, Hectic.
Yeah, I know you clocked it a bit, but Hectic, did you want to clarify your? What do you mean by impactful?
Define impactful for us. All right, so we'll come back to Hectic's question, and in the meantime,
thank goodness I can think about it.
Yes.
I actually have a good answer.
Oh, go for it then. By all
do you?
means.
I do. So it was in a streamed show a long time ago in a land far, far away. And it was the first show that I'd ever been on that was streamed on Twitch. And some people that I met once or twice before had got together with some people that I'd never really met or talked to at all before. And we'd been playing for some time. And we decided we were going to do some good with the community and raise some money for a charity. I then proceeded to watch goal after goal get smashed. And a metric ton of money raised for veterans. And for those that know me, is something that hits deep for me. Pardon me. And I realized that sitting around playing a game, fostering a community, was something that could change lives. And not just the people watching them or using an escape from everyday reality or the harshness of the crap day they were having at work, or the issues they were having at home, or the boredom because of the pandemic. But people that really needed their lives touched and changed. We had that effect just by rolling dice, laughing and smiling, and bringing together a community.
I can see that. That's awesome.
That is awesome.
All right, I guess I'll go next because I haven't had the pleasure of having to follow up Jack with another nightmarishly hard to follow story.
Right? What is with you guys tonight?
All right. I see where the bar is. Let me go ahead and limbo under that then. So I guess mine's a little bit more selfish, but I would say, so there was a game that I was running before I started streaming, so it was a while ago, but it was a game that we called Luna Academy Adventures. It was like this
Sign me up.
kind of, yeah, it was like a Hogwarts inspired, well, on Tuesday we have an Academy-based game if you want to come check it out, but, and Friday. So it was called Luna Academy Adventures. It was like kind of a Hogwarts inspired. It was sort of a merger of an anime I had watched called Darling in the Franxx and Hogwarts kind of put together in sort of a weird way. It was a fun game, and while I was playing that game, there was a player who their character's name was Poppy, and Poppy was this character who was kind of this sort of shy, kind of background character. They were more a player who wasn't like necessarily taking a ton of the dialogue in game. They were very there for combat, and they clearly had like an awesome head on their shoulders. But at the time, they kind of let everyone else talk and then just piped in once or twice. In that game, there's a lot of NPCs that the players were interacting with, and there had been this one NPC that before Poppy they had kind of been a late addition to the game after we were already a couple sessions in. So before Poppy joined, there was this character named Kendra, who was this tiefling that had really given everyone kind of a weird vibe. She was very flirtatious. She also seemed to be a little bit petty and talked about like people's fashion choices in kind of a derogatory way. The party sort of just immediately clocked her as like, you're a villain. You're like the Draco Malfoy of this scenario. We don't like you. You're clearly not anything we want to do with. And everyone kind of looked at her and was just like, none of that. But when Poppy kind of first got to interact with this character, they had this sort of, they for the first time ever, and like this person and this player I had never seen be this bold, as they kind of hop up and are like, they sort of take over the scene and start talking to this NPC Kendra and talking about like, oh, well, I mean, their behaviors are clearly because they're someone who seems very lonely. Like they're projecting this kind of air of confidence because like inside they're clearly just like nervous as hell 24/7 and just afraid of social interaction. Like they just like immediately have a totally different read on this character. And in addition to sort of changing the whole party's mind about it, they sort of changed the players' minds about this player of just like, oh, you actually have an incredible emotional intelligence. Like we need your voice way more. And it was kind of watching this player come into their own. As that game progresses, eventually Poppy ends up romancing Kendra, and they have kind of like these really sweet love scenes that end up being things like the whole table is just here for. They're super into it. And that's the story of how I met my girlfriend, actually. Is that she was playing Poppy, and like kind of for the first time I sort of saw her like as this really amazing person, and we started dating shortly after it, and it like had a pretty big impact on me, I guess I'd have to say. So pretty impactful.
That's so cute. I love it.
I'll go because I haven't got one. I'm really sorry, I cannot think of one. I've been doing this for 27 years. I can't think of anything that's been massively. My success for games is as long as everyone's enjoying it, I'm good. I don't really have one. I'm really sorry. I just don't have one that's at all. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
That's all good.
a bit of a cop out. It's a bit of a cop out, but it's true. Unless I make some bollocks up, it's not gonna. I haven't got one.
And this one's a hard one. What? I guess the moment that kind of comes back to me, at least, is a part of what I do for my games is I try not to. There's a lot of venture paths out there. There's a lot of people playing these big storylines. I really try to focus my games on characters. So part of the challenge that I give any player is, create an abstract goal and create a concrete goal, something that you for sure can do, and then, something that's not really obtainable, but you're going to, I'm going to be a better person. Abstract. I'm going to be, I need higher self-esteem, which is probably my personal abstract goal. But part of the story a player wanted to create was like, the character is designed to go to an all-time low, and then we're supposed to bring the character out of it, whatever that means in the story. And it came to a point where the character was like about to give up, about to quit everything. And for me, I remember that another player kind of picked up on that pretty quickly and kind of walked in and was like, it's going to be okay. And from the player standpoint, it probably wasn't a very big moment. It was just like another player like patting on the back, bromance type of thing. But to me as a game master, everyone always wants to be the hero. So it's very interesting to me when a player wants to be, the weak link per se. So I think it's like those moments where someone says like, I want my character to be at a low and then be at a high, and what does that mean? That really kind of impact me and my thing, because I run a lot of games. I think at the busiest I was running like 12 games a week for work, and so you see everything. You see all the tropes. You see all the Hexblade Warlocks. You see all the Sorkadin builds, and you get tired of that, and then you see someone like kind of come up with a new approach. It's actually quite nice. So, and I think that was probably very impactful. No more Hexblade Warlocks. I have one in every game.
I'm glad that you decided to call out Hexblade Warlocks, so I'm not the only one outing my girlfriend on the show who plays exclusively that class when we do 5th edition.
There you go.
I'm trying to think if I've had any that have been extremely impactful, or even remotely impactful. I mean, I've had some that are impactful for characters. I feel like I've answered this question like in a few different varieties in the last few weeks, but I'm gonna share it again because there's a few people here who haven't heard it. Probably one of the most impactful things that ever happened to me as a person when I was part of a stream campaign actually didn't happen on stream. It actually happened off camera in a RP room that we have together or had together, and I needed to step away from the stream. I was telling this group beforehand, at the time I was involved in 4 streams a week, not including my own on my own channel. So I was streaming 3 actual play campaigns plus Tales from the Tavern, plus doing my own streaming, and just found that I had really sort of lost control of my schedule. And so I needed to sort of regroup and get some of that time back. So I needed to step down from a campaign. And so I was stepping down from a campaign that was on a different channel than the one all the rest of mine were on. And when I did that, basically what had happened the week prior in that episode that we had done, one of the characters' weapons had either broken or gotten damaged somehow. I don't remember exactly what had happened at that point. But my character was a werewolf, so she didn't really use a weapon. She just used her claws and her teeth and all of that good stuff. And so off camera, she didn't say goodbye to anybody in the group because that would have been totally totally out of the realm of what would be typical for her. Like, that would be just so against her character. So instead, what she did is she had a Glock that she left on the bedside table of one of the other characters as they were sleeping, and just left a note that said, "Thought you could use this until you could find something better," and just walked out. And that was her departure from the stream. And it was heartbreaking, because I also was at the time going through sort of a loss of a friendship, and it happened to be with that character that she left the Glock for. So it was very difficult in a lot of ways, because it was a closure for me in a couple of different areas. So that was pretty big. But yeah.
Now, when in TPT-RPGs, you can like be kind of getting this sort of projection of things that are happening IRL and like working through issues that way. I always feel like that's like peak tabletop.
Yeah.
Like when you
Can I amend my answer a little?
Yeah,
to
go for it.
explain why I don't. So people play RPGs for different reasons.
Definitely.
Right. Some people like to explore an alternative personality or persona, and others just want to run a game to fuel like their writing skills or whatever. But I'm just there to enjoy like run a good story, make sure everyone's having fun. As long as I get that, I'm good. Do you know what I mean? I don't need. I'm not. I mean, it may have happened. I may have had an impact on someone else. I just don't know it. Mainly because I'm probably English, and my emotions are a little bit dull. Do you know what I mean? We're not massively like known for being very emotional people over here in England. So, but yeah, we're just different strokes for different folks, as the saying goes.
I think to that point, for me, that's why I start a game. I'm like, I have time. It sounds like fun. It's got cool people in it that I'd love to game with. And if I end up with some of the other stuff, it's just a bonus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely no right or wrong way for sure. Like, I definitely think that what I take out of a game is not necessarily what everyone else is putting into it. Like, it's a very personal experience.
Yeah.
So even if whether you're one of the players who is there for the grind and the hack and slash, or there for your deep character dramas, like those are all valid.
Yeah, I agree. All right, well, we are at about the hour mark, so I am going to let our guests take a quick break, and we will be back in just a little bit. We've got a couple of questions already to lead us off for the next half, so we'll start with those. If we haven't gotten to your question yet, don't worry, it's coming up. Don't forget to enter our giveaway, exclamation point ticket, to enter the giveaway for a dozen cookies from Critical Hit Cookies. They are individually wrapped. They're shipped really well, so they're great. Yeah, she does gluten-free and sugar-free as well. So there's options for people if you need any of those special things. So yes, exclamation point ticket to enter the giveaway. And
I feel like you're dangling a carrot in front of my face that I could never get.
I know. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, she does not ship to England. I wish she did. All right. Were you going to say something?
I was about to be a little bit political about like Brexit. I won't bother.
I mean, look, your first clue that the cookies are off the table is that they're not called biscuits. So.
It's true.
We have cookies. We call things cookies.
All right.
Listen,
we will be right back, and we'll catch you after the break. We'll see you soon. We're back with a screen that I have to fix again. Sorry, guys. I can only be on one screen at a time. But it looks like Chocolate chip cookies won the poll. 6 votes to 3 for oatmeal raisin, 2 for other, 0 for sugar, and 0 for ginger snap or molasses. So I would like to know what the people who said other, what their vote is, because I would really like to know these things.
Snickerdoodles.
Ooh, snickerdoodles.
Chocolate digestives.
Oh, yeah, those are good too.
I like macadamia nut cookies.
Also a good choice.
Oh, pecan sandies.
Yep.
You're saying stuff I don't understand.
Sorry guys, I'm like still trying to fix all the cameras and stuff again. All right, here we go. So yes, I think there's a lot of good cookie choices out there. So I'm glad. Oh, Ray, I'm sorry you missed the cookie choice. Cawthon says cinnamon oatmeal or snickerdoodle. Yep. Oatmeal raisin, cranberry white chocolate, macadamia. That is a big answer.
I went other for butterscotch. I'm a fan of butterscotches.
Oh yeah. I haven't had a butterscotch cookie in a long time.
I'll just stick to my biscuits, thank you.
Well, if you want to try a butterscotch cookie, I've heard they make a great one from Critical Hit Cookies.
Yeah.
Plug.
It's always nice when I talk about them and they're like, yeah, we can do that. Sorry, I'm trying to put a giant dragon on the screen.
No, it was great. On an unrelated, I was doing this for more, sarcasm purposes,
Yeah.
but it made it look as if I conjured that dragon
I
entirely.
know,
It was a good
it's
time.
pretty good. I'm impressed.
It worked out. It synced up well.
It did. Oh gosh. All right. I just lost it behind the overlay. Okay, there we go. For reals, guys. I got this. Pro Strims. Yes, unfortunately, you all have probably figured out that Nikki was not able to get her camera back up and running. She ran into some connectivity issues at home today, so she was very disappointed. So that is why she has not returned. But the rest of us are still here. So we have some questions that we're going to dive back into. Don't forget, if you haven't entered the giveaway yet, please do so. And we're going to dive in with a question from Ray Mayhem, who would like to know, tell us all your favorite class without telling us your favorite class.
A favorite class without telling...
I don't really play D&D, so I don't have classes.
Favorite class.
I mean, that's a fairly easy one for me, but that's...
Give us an example. What does that sound like? Give me like a format.
So for
What
me,
does it
I
sound
would
like?
say my favorite class is known for being sneaky and stealing things.
Okay, all right.
But
I got
that's
you.
because I play a pretty straightforward rogue when I do. So
As I'm not a D&D player, but I will understand what you're saying. I think you should try and make it sound as boring as possible. For example, a fighter would be like, occasionally gets in arguments. Is that boring?
I was gonna say, like, if we're talking about 5th edition, if you wanted to make a fighter sound boring, you just say a fighter.
So I think I'll throw a little curveball in the mix here, as
All
I've
right.
been, I'm never known to do that. But I'm a low-level a thug rising through the ranks, working for mega corporations, trying to make money and get my new gear up and running.
Oh.
And for those that couldn't guess or couldn't figure, I'm a Street Sam from Shadowrun.
Okay,
Right.
very cool.
Nice. Yeah, somebody in chat got it. They said Shadowrun.
Izzy got it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, it was either that or Cyberpunk, so,
Yeah, true.
My favorite class has a bigger personality than their skill set.
Bart?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you
Try-
go. I dig it.
Bards are
Everyone's disgruntled parent would be my favorite D&D class.
Oof, I don't know that one.
if we're bending the term of class, then I could quite I could explain one.
Go for it.
Makes deals with devils to empower himself.
I don't know either of those.
A huckster from Deadlands.
Very cool.
Oh.
Look here. Always ready for a fight. In darkness gives light. I destroy enemies with my unholy smite.
Cheesemaker.
No, paladins are my favorite class.
I was just gonna say, I'm
There you go,
like
Patsy.
that's a paladin thing, but
Very. No, I love one of the reasons why I love Pathfinder 2e and like some of the errata to D&D is I love paladins who are not like holy warriors, paladins who are just like champions or even sometimes dark paladins. Like being a paladin of something other than a god, I find very cool.
What do they call it in second edition? You can be a tyrant. That's what it is. A tyrant champion, which is
Champion.
all sorts of unique to me.
The litanies in Pathfinder 2e are very cool. The ability to just the reason why I always think of them as the parent is because one, that's who your lawful good paladin usually is, and two, because they have this cool ability in Pathfinder 2e called a litany, where it's literally just like I'm just gonna lecture you and give you a ringing out about what you did wrong, and you're gonna take damage from it. Oh, you hit my friend? Let's talk about how that stinks. You're gonna take some psychic damage.
I like that. I'll have to try that sometime. It's funny. All right, so Stromraven had a really good question, and I think this is also a really great one, especially because it can affect every table ever. What do you guys do when one of your players becomes discouraged from playing because of bad luck or poor choices?
I can
Jump right in, James. Go for it.
I can jump in. Play. Foul. Make sure you're fouling forward as a GM. Make sure you're like, rather than like everything comes to a stop because they failed the roll. Make it interesting. Make sure that it's called fouling forward because it keeps the game going. So if they're say a rogue like Luna or whatever, and they're trying to pick their way into a building, and they fail their roll to pick the lock, you can go. You open it, but when you open the door, there's a guard standing behind the door. So they succeed, but there's another issue that comes up. And poor choices. Is there such a thing?
Sometimes.
I mean, well,
That brings up a whole different question for me, but let's just...
But as long as you're fair, as long as, if they... I killed 2 players. I'm not a GM that goes around killing players usually, but they made a poor decision of like talking about busting. This is a Star Wars game. They were talking about busting someone out of a prison while in the cell with the person and the Imperials monitoring it. So when they go to bust him out when he's been transported, they've laid a trap for him. So that's bad. Technically that's a bad choice to them. I was hoping that they'd take the transport all the way back to the ship and go, hey, let's free him now. But yeah, there is. I mean, yes, but as long as you're a fair GM, DM, whatever you want, keeper, whatever term you use, for running, being the controller of a game. As long as it's fair, then you should be all right. They shouldn't get discouraged, and if you feel they are, you can always go at the end and explain to them what happened and how that situation happened, and that might take a lot of the sting out of the poor choice.
Yeah, I would yes and everything that James is saying in terms of like what you do kind of when players fail. I guess like if Strom's asking when players get discouraged or feel like they like do their past poor choices, they just don't want to show up to the table anymore. I always found that like one, communication is the most important thing. Like you need to be talking to your players. Like if they are communicating to you they're discouraged, then it's worth having a conversation. Like, hey, what is it about the game that's making you feel this way? What is it about our table that you're not having fun with, it doesn't like get you excited to come back, because everyone should be excited to come back to the table every time. But like if they're actively discouraged, I always try to like kind of sit down with my players and talk about, okay, how can we turn bad things that happened into character development that makes your character more fun to play? Like, how do we turn a failure into a moment of growth? So I think that like Powered by the Apocalypse systems do this explicitly, right? Every time you fail a roll, you get XP forward towards leveling up. But in other systems, it's more kind of a matter of like, all right, so your character, they trusted this NPC that maybe they really shouldn't have, and they even sold out the party a little bit because that NPC promised them a treasure. And because of that, you feel like, I've made such bad choices, like my character's almost unplayable because the whole party hates me, and I'm like this, I'm this terrible decision maker. And my response is, well, no. What your character is immature, and now they're growing. So how do we want to play forward this arc of your character learning, like, oh, maybe this party is someone I should trust. How do we get you closer to the party? Or, hey, maybe your character is developing their sense of, like, ethics and judgment, that you put friends over things. Like, how can we create arcs in the story where your character is not just failing, but learning from those mistakes? And I think that kind of is a good positive way to spin characters that have been having a real rough go of it.
Yeah, I think of it in my head, at least, as like the turning point. This bad thing happened. Well, what is this? Could be the turning point for something that's a little more productive. But to answer the specific question, like that, it's really a player by player situation. You can't necessarily approach one player the same way as you approach another player. And then there's the whole thing. Like, it seems like everyone here is a streamer of some sort or a podcaster. So like you have to handle that much differently than you would handle a private game between friends. And then I have clients, so I have to like get paid at the end of the day. So I don't want to figure all that sort of stuff out as well. But normally, if you like try to encourage that this is a moment that could reflect a redemption arc, as you were mentioning, or like a turning point in some growth, normally most players are pretty okay with it if their motivation is to play a character, play a story. Sometimes when you just like miss a hit, it sucks, but it happens as well. So.
Thoughts? Do you have anything, Jack?
We also have a lot of other questions if you want to move on, but I mean, if there's...
I think the real breakdown, what it comes down to, and I agree, is communication. Being able to communicate and help and think and work out of bad situations or issues, I think is pinnacle for role-playing in general. At the end of the day, I spent a lot of time playing with guys that were first responders, military vets, active duty military, and like our friend Cawthon out in chat land here, he can tell you one of the first things they're taught is think outside the box. And rings true. Think outside the box. Talk it out. Work it out. You can do it.
All right. Well, that actually leads to this. This actually brings up a good segue into our next question, which also comes from Ray Mayhem, and she would like to know, how do you handle a player with a character who is making other players uncomfortable, aka problematic theme, making jokes that are inappropriate, jumping on other players out of game for an in-game choice?
I thought these questions were going to be like, what easy, fun questions. Like, what's your favorite system? Like,
sometimes they are. Sometimes they're not. It really just depends on chat.
Who made your favorite dice set? Yeah.
Jesus. I think to answer this question, there are safety tool options that I try to implement at my table just to hopefully avoid this problem and set boundaries at session 0. That kind of, hopefully alleviates the problem before it happens. When players opt to kind of push that boundary that in theory we've already set up, normally it's just a matter of stopping the scene. You stop the scene, you kind of take 30 seconds away from the scene and hopefully put the scene back in a way that makes players more comfortable. And then, have a communication talk between the problematic player, I think was the choice of words, and then perhaps the player who felt uncomfortable, and hopefully find a way to resolve that. It sounds like the theme of the last two questions, the second half, is communication and making sure that people aren't pushing that boundary intentionally. They're pushing the boundary because of don't push the boundary. Don't want to imply anything. Don't push the boundary if you can, but sometimes it's unintentional. So sometimes we just have to, build that wall a little taller to make sure we don't go past it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the real importance of a session 0 is that you can kind of set up general norms that you can expect everyone to follow by the by. And hopefully, if you have a good, thorough session 0, we actually on our channel, The Legend of the Table, you can find twitch.tv Legend of the Table. We did a session 0 workshop where we kind of went over like, hey, here's all the things you should do in a session 0. Here's what you should make sure you hear from your players. Here's what the DM needs to be able to express. And one of those things that I think I've become like a really big supporter of is having basically like a consent checklist, where as the DM, when you're coming to the table, you should be able to say, hey, here are some of the themes we're going to deal with. So for example, I as a DM in our games over at Legend of the Table, we do deal with some heavy themes with like sometimes parental abuse or being like an LGBTQIA podcast. There are occasionally like bigotry within our villains that the players have to triumph over. And in session 0, I really want to communicate to my players, hey, this is a theme that's going to come up. Now, I'm not going to support that or endorse that. I'm not here for just like, uber violence, but there are going to be, there will be gore. There will be these themes of parental abuse. There will be mentions of suicide or of death. And those topics can be very disturbing for some players. And being clear to kind of set the tone early of, here's what we'll talk about with it. Here's like how far it would go. Like maybe some players will have sexual encounters. We're not going to describe that on stream. That's not what we're here to do. We're going to fade to black, like kind of establishing what's clear about that. And in doing that kind of disclosure from you, the DM, in a position of authority, it kind of lets your players know that if they're the ones pushing past lines you set out, then they're kind of already set up to a state of correction, because like people don't want to have their egos challenged. But if you as the DM are saying, here's what I'm really bringing forward in session 0, then if in session 6 a player kind of steps over the line, you can say, hey, remember back in session 0, we talked about it this way. We have to, this is how the behavior is going to be policed. You can kind of speak from that position of authority, and it can be really successful in terms of corrective nature.
Well, for me, it depends on how long they've been doing it, and if people have already brought it up to them that they are causing issues. If they're causing issues, they won't get invited back. Simple as that. I mean, a lot of games we play, or what I play, are generally Aryan. I was supposed to say adult, but I said Aryan, and I don't know why. Adult orientated, and I try and I expect players to be. I don't like players playing villains. It's never been my cup of tea. So yeah, but I do say obviously villains are going to be villains, so there may be implied stuff, but we won't. It won't ever be anything uncomfortable. But yeah, you're right. A good session 0. And just laying down not the rules, but just saying, "Oh, this might happen. This might happen. This thing might happen," and then you can also ask the players what aren't you comfortable with, and because it is a two-way street. It's not you're but even though you're the DM or GM, you're not the only you are also a player as well. So you got that's the way I see it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. If there's, especially if you have done that establishment at session 0, whenever I've had in the past a player who's been pretty clearly intending to be problematic or kind of make some jokes that they see as very edgy and that are hurting other people, I have a very zero tolerance policy about that. They're just gone. And I think that's a fair thing to do. When you set that standard ahead of time, if people step over it, it gives you pretty clear authority to just be like, no, none of that.
I mean, you have authority because it's your table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got. Well, I don't know. I mean, everyone said, it's maybe. I don't know. As a GM, you are just the arbitrator, aren't you? You just, you're supposed to settle disputes or I don't know. But I think, I have got two very recent examples of like stuff that happened and how I dealt with it, and they were from both the same game. I had one player in Star Wars, right. One player basically was playing it like D&D, that when he killed people, he was just taking their loot, and I was like, but that's not how Star Wars is. It's not D&D. You don't take their loot and like take all the loot while there's still a fight going on. If you watch any of the Star Wars films, when they take loot, like Han and Luke on the first Death Star, and they take the Stormtrooper armor, they don't keep it. They discard it as soon as they don't need it anymore. And yeah, he spent like, they were in the middle of a combat, and when he killed the two like guards or whatever, he started looting their bodies while everyone else was still trying to like battle this person. And I was like, sorry mate, just not working, thanks for playing. And that was that. And then another one, they were at, one of the players had arachnophobia, and we were about to head to a planet that had lots of spiders on it, so I had to drop the spiders. That's dealing with it, right?
Yeah.
I think.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna take this from like all the way out in Mississippi, and throw a huge curveball. This isn't TTRPG. This is another style of RPG that I'm involved with. Some of you may have heard of GTA Roleplay over on 5M. But I was head management on one server and a leader of a team on another server, and involved in a lot of different organizations. And unlike a table where you have your friends and people that you know coming to play, we have open servers where anyone can join and jump in and play with you. And you've got people from all different walks of life, from all over the world, that you have to consider social norms and differences. And honestly, for the people that really want to be there, for the people that really want to roleplay, that really want to get into character and do something and tell a story, and get involved with the server as a whole, the offending party gets a ticket opened against them, or they get discussed or talked to by someone who says, you should really go talk to, one of the admins or one of the staff members, because you might be infringing on a rule. And before you get in real trouble, you might want to talk with them. And usually 9 times out of 10, if they're not bad people, if they really want to do what the server is intended for, they'll reach out, or they'll get sat down in a staff sit, and we'll have the discussion. Hey, listen, this is what's accepted, this is not what's accepted. You may not have known, but these are our ground rules. This is what we accept on our server. Be aware that we cater to, all walks of life, all different types of people of all race, creed, and kind. And please be socially aware and socially accepting of everyone. And 9 times out of 10, the people look at you and go, all right, we totally understand that. This is what we're trying to portray. We're trying to be a 1%er MC. We're trying to be a bunch of old school Italian mafioso. We're trying to be, a street gang. Or we want to be some, underground private military company that does, black ops for, whoever. And they'll adapt the roleplay accordingly to kind of help out. Or we'll find some sort of middle ground where we can all kind of coexist and be happy together. And it's a lot of work, but the fruition and the stories that can come from it, with, you're not just talking a table of like 4 or 5 or 6 people, but servers that fit up to like 65 people. And it's a huge level of story that just can blow your mind.
And I think that actually does like kind of lead into, I think, one of the more important things. Like, so the question was like about what do you do if the player is problematic, but identifying whether or not they are problematic can sometimes be hard. And I think that like the most important part there, which you're striking at, is you just really have to listen to your players, because like regardless of who you are as a DM, you're never going to be able to have just the width and depth of lived experience to be able to tell when something is or isn't going to be upsetting to another player at the table, right? Like
Absolutely.
I, as a DM, have, you know, I have Sydney on the Legend of the Table is awesome. They're a black and a Jewish player, and like I have neither of those two lived experiences. And there have definitely been times where they've been like, "Hey, I don't think you're being like a pain. I don't think you're trying to be an asshole, but at the same time, here's this part of Jewish cultural heritage you might not have known. Your villains have a weirdly similar cultural heritage. Are you driving it from that stereotype?" And I'm like, "Well, no, I sure wasn't trying to, but you better believe it's being rewritten now, you know?"
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing where, and I mean, we see that even with Wizards of the Coast makes that mistake, right? Because they don't necessarily have the ability to hire that many different people, like with Curse of Strahd being really deeply offensive to Romani people in their portrayal of the Vistani, right? Like, if your players tell you there's a problem, like it's never worth being like, "No, there actually isn't." No, if your players say there's a problem, like it's worth listening to them and always being willing to engage them on the level that your players are feeling uncomfortable, not just the level that you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, and then it honestly, it comes to a point of how uncomfortable do you want your players? And not in a negative way. But do you want to portray that villain, that antagonist, in such a way that it physically does make them uncomfortable, so that they have more of a drive to go after this antagonist? Is that a possibility? Is that okay with your player set, with your table? Do you like? I recently talked to a bunch of friends about a campaign that I wanted to bring up involving World War II, and the main antagonists are what? You know, are my players or are my friends or people that I want to get involved in this story that I want to tell comfortable with dealing with that? You know what I mean? That's huge.
Yeah.
Can we deal with Nazis? Because it means literal Nazis.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We're not talking about the grammar police. We're talking about actual Nazis. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think one of the big things for me, and this is something that I do regardless of whether it's at the TTRPG table or just, you know, a friend who comes to me looking for advice or venting about something, is before they get very far in, I'll stop them and I'll say, "Are you looking for help or do you just need to vent?" Because there are two very different things there, in my opinion. You know, it's sometimes somebody does something that's like, "Oh my god, I wish they hadn't done that." Or sometimes it's a legitimate, yes, this needs to be resolved, you know. And then if it's they just need to vent, then that changes the way that I'm going to listen and respond. So that's usually like the first place that I start. And then, you know, again, like everybody's just said, you know, it's just all about communication. It's letting people know, you know, what you are and are not okay with. So, yeah.
And that way everyone has fun! Yay!
Yay, fun!
And as Chloe said, like, use safety tools.
Yeah.
Use safety tools, and then if people are feeling uncomfortable about something and they play the X card or whatever version of the safety tools you're using, you know then to like fade to black and proceed to the next scene or something.
Yep.
If it is, who knows? But yeah.
Yeah.
But the other thing, don't sign up to a horror game if you don't like horror.
Yeah. All right. Well,
that concludes the really heavy portion.
That concludes the heavy portion of our conversation, because Nekla the Druid, Nekla has very nicely asked us a lighthearted question, saying, "I'll ask a fun one. Question: if your characters, any that you've ever played, had a potluck, what would they bring?" Edabrix would bring potatoes. Any potato dish. That's what she would sign up for. All of the potato dishes, really.
Fantasy rations? I don't know.
Do we call Mihai for the beats?
Yes. Yeah.
I didn't even know what the term meant until 5 seconds ago, and I just read. So I was like, "What's a potluck?"
It's like a communal gathering where everyone brings their own
Yeah.
dish. My most famous character, unfortunately, is Sora, who's a vampire. So I'm probably bringing a lot of O negative and disgusting everyone else at the table.
Okay then.
One of my favorite characters, longest time playing characters, was actually in a Cyberpunk game. So I would have to say protein drinks and actual ravioli. if anybody remembers Zero out there.
Love it.
Oh gosh. I'm trying to think. The character that I'm playing now would probably. I don't know. I don't know what she'd bring. She'd probably bring something like. She'd either be like, I'll bring the salad, or I'll bring like the, something that like most people will agree on.
I'm remembering I did once play a barbarian character whose ultimate quest in the world was to become the world's greatest chef with no talent by finding exotic monsters that were edible that could be cooked. So they would probably bring you something that looks maybe like a large cockroach leg. You're not really sure what it is. It would definitely be barbecued.
There you go. So in a Warhammer 40k TTRPG, I played an orc who wanted to be a chef, and
That's awesome.
After he would kill things, he would try to cook them, and he had for those that don't know, Warhammer 40k orcs powers, their machines, all their stuff works because they're like somehow magically psychic, and their stuff just works because they think it does. So he walked around with 3 old like powdered sugar shakers in horrible crayon seasonings, not even spelled right. And it was like random dirt and like broken glass and like other stuff that he'd find on the ground, and he'd crush it up with like mortar and pestle and like throw it in like the seasonings canisters, and he would cook for everyone, and he would sprinkle the seasonings on everything, and like what should kill you actually was really delicious.
I love that.
Were they red shakers? Were they red shakers? So they
Oh,
go
absolutely, because
faster?
they got to go faster. Yeah. See, absolutely, they would. He had for basting, he had a pet squig that he would grab by the feet and like wring out, and then suck up the juice, and then like squeeze like a beach ball on top of the turkey and whatnot. There you go.
Rubbish. Every question is like, I don't often play characters because I'm generally Mr. Games Master, so I generally don't get a chance to.
Is there an
play as a
NPC
I'll bring-
that you've made that would have like a
I'll bring
signature
sausage
dish?
rolls. I'll bring some Greg's sausage rolls because
Oh, yum.
and maybe a
Awesome.
steak bake, some steak bakes from Greg's, because they're good.
I'd be okay with that. I'll go to that cookout, to that potluck. Somebody in chat says spiced weasel.
There you go.
Bam!
Oh man. So while we're talking about it, James, you've mentioned a few times that you don't play D&D a lot. So I'll put the question out there because we haven't really talked about it at all tonight. What is a system that you've played that you really, really enjoy, or a system that you've never tried that you would like to?
That's an amazing question. My favorite system is an all-encompassing one. Some of you may or may not have heard of it, but it was my second RPG I ever played, and it was called GURPS, Generic Universal
really?
Role-Playing System.
There are 2 types of players: those who like GURPS and those who hate it.
Now there's
Crunchy.
a reason. The rule set isn't to everyone's liking, and I understand that. But there's a reason why I like it. The system literally allows you to do everything with it. You can literally limit yourself just by your imagination on what you can do. Is it flawed? Absolutely. Any tabletop system is technically flawed. But ultimately, it opened the door for anyone and anything to happen. And that's what set me off to the system. As far as something that I'd want or get involved with that I haven't been able to yet, It was a little-known RPG that was published in the late 70s, early 80s, and only a limited edition was put out. I had a bunch of friends of mine that I met through friends of friends that were Freemasons, and they got me into it. I can't remember the name of it. It was a soft paperback book with a red cover with a bunch of demonology on it, but you played a demon in hell that was trying to escape. And the rest of hell and all the layers were trying to keep you in. So,
That's interesting.
it was really kind of cool. And you could pick the different types of demons that you could be and powers and yada yada yada. But I only got to play it once, and it was a lot of fun. It was really kind of cool.
Have you tried Savage Worlds? Just saying. Have you tried
He
Savage
has
Worlds?
actually a lot.
Actually, I've played on a few different Twitch shows playing Savage Worlds.
Yeah.
The issue with generic games. I've been a bit loud, sorry. I've got to be a bit quiet because everyone's asleep. But the problem with generic games is that that's what they are. They are generic, which means that they don't really have much flavour. But, you know, each to their own. But, yeah, I mean, I used to hate Savage Worlds. Like, I used to hate generic game systems, really, because, you know, as the jack of, you know, the term of jack of all trades. Was it master of none? Yeah, jack of all trades, master of none. Which means it's, you know, it's good at doing a bit of everything, but it doesn't sing. However, and this is, I'm going to sound really. Currently, I'm running a Deadlands game, which is about to go. I'm just like getting my head around the system for Savage Worlds. I never used to like it. I used to find like Deadlands Reloaded absolutely bland. I used to love classic Deadlands because it had loads of flavour. And like in the past, couple of months ago, I started running a classic Deadlands game and the brand new Deadlands, which is they've just done a Kickstarter on. And within and I was going to run them through the same story and see how they compared. And I got to the end of the first story in classic Deadlands. Was like, guys, I can't deal with the crunchiness anymore. Can we please move over to Savage Worlds because it's just easier for me and I can concentrate on the game. However, it's not my favourite system. I don't really have a system that stands out to me as like a personal favourite. I've got like a group of them. I love Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, the current one. I generally play on virtual tabletops as well, and I do a lot of like prepping of the actual to make the game run smoother as much as I can. So the players there's no they don't have to think about much. They just click macros and roll die. You know, it rolls and does it all for them. Which, you know, if you're running, I find if you're running a game online, you have to sort of balance the fact that they could be looking at YouTube and that, you know, you've got to keep their attention a bit, you know, you've got to keep things snappier. And a game that I want to try, and I've just got it, I have technically played it because it is powered by Apocalypse World. I think it's called Legends of the Elements, which is basically an Avatar the Last Airbender RPG, and I really enjoyed Avatar the Last Airbender when I watched it. I was like an adult when I watched it, because I watched it a few years ago, and I really enjoyed it because it didn't talk down to the it wasn't like one of those cartoons that talk down to the children or whatever, and I just enjoyed it. And I'd like to run a campaign or, you know, a short-term thing of Avatar, but with the serial numbers filed off, I guess. Yeah, and Deadlands. I really like Deadlands. I've always liked Deadlands. Oh, and I like Star Wars Fantasy Flight as well. And I like Mutant Year Zero and all that. Yeah. Now I'm a gaming whore. I'm sorry.
Ooh, White Wolf.
Yeah.
White Wolf is amazing. I started playing with first edition White Wolf and really got into it. Had a lot of fun with it.
Now look, you can let every gaming system have a chance. It's good to be a little bit of a gaming slut. I'm a fan, but
I'm a huge gaming slut. I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
If I could get my hands on a book or a PDF, I'm down with the get down.
I'm really happy you gave me that segue. I was bet $20 that I couldn't find a way to say that I'm a slut on stream, and I found it. So that's
There you go.
Good way to go.
That's right. You got to give
Got you.
Got it.
Split, got to split
Boom.
between the rest of us, though. Yeah.
No, I understand why people don't like GURPS though. Like, it's just not because I think there's anything wrong with GURPS, but because I feel like when I'm choosing a system, a lot of it actually has more to do with my players than myself as a GM. Because it's about how much of the math and like balance and like crunch I want to put onto the players as a burden. Because like Powers by the Apocalypse, for example, the players really only have to kind of like plug and play from like a multiple choice, almost like a Cosmo like personality quiz. Is sort of how you build your character, right? You're like, I'll choose one of these and one of these and one of these, and these are my abilities, and this is how it works. You go up to something like Pathfinder or like Dungeons and Dragons, and you actually have to like choose a class, and then you have to decide, oh well, if I have this int score, that means my skill is this. So they're doing more math there. They have to cross apply. And by the time you get to something like GURPS, I feel like the players are basically doing the entire work of like, all right, I'm going to custom construct by pulling all of these different variables, and I got to make all the equations work. I feel like it, even if it's not actually that math heavy, it has that kind of feeling of being very like, I'm getting flattened by the amount of math there are. And I've definitely had players who would not be willing to do that with me. I've also played GURPS and enjoyed it before when I just had a bunch of like computer science guys around me who were all super math heavy and were like, no, this is our jam. We know how to run this, you know? My favorite systems are usually ones that have like settings overlaid in them that I enjoy playing, or that have systems that are really modular to a bunch of different settings. So my two favorite would be Shadowrun 5th edition. I really love.
Yes.
I think it's super good because of all the incredible, awesome flavor of like the different mega corporations. Like I've been able to run campaigns entirely about Shiawase, but I've also been able to run entire campaigns that like aren't even set in Neo Tokyo and are rather like somewhere in the UCAS. Like there's all great stuff going on there.
Did we just become awesome friends?
Yeah. No, I've been trying to convince my current cast to play Shadowrun for a long time, because like I said, it looks very intimidating. Like you look at it, it's like I got to choose priority 1, 2, 3. I have 32 skill points. That's such a huge number of skill points. You know, it can feel really overwhelming, especially after D&D Beyond just spoils you by being like, nah, I just like click, click, boom, I have a character made. But then my favorite like fantasy setting, and the one I've probably played the longest, is Pathfinder 1st edition, which I think is really good, not only because it's like, I think one of the best versions for my money of like the traditional like what you see on Stranger Things, you know, like the stereotypical fantasy RPG. I think it's just a little bit better than anything Wizards has done at it, but also it's not really in any way bound to Galoran, their system, at all. So when I run a lot of my homebrew content, I love that Pathfinder's just like, no, I'm just going to pick that up and put it here, and it makes total sense. I just change the deities around, I change a little bit of the backstories around, and we're just set to go. It's very easy to homebrew.
But don't you need a spreadsheet as a character?
It kind of
I hear it's incredibly crunchy as well.
So, I mean, I think that it depends on how you look at it. I think that with Pathfinder 1st edition, there is the main issue is that there isn't a tool like D&D Beyond necessarily out there for you that will do the basic maths of like, if my int is +2, that means my knowledge skills, which are based on int, need to go up by 2, and then they have 3 inherently at being level 1. Like when you start just adding more, it's nothing but addition, but there's enough addition it starts to feel overwhelming.
I think I heard that the one on do you use virtual tabletops?
Yeah, I use some. I know there's one, there's like a couple of models out there that try it. There's an app that we use for Pathfinder 2nd edition called Path Builder that's on the Android that's been pretty good. There are definitely some attempts out there, but there isn't like a standardized one that every player, like if you just invite a random player to the table, you'll probably have to instruct them more in terms of either how to do the maths or what apps to look out. Whereas with Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, the Wizards Monopoly, it's just like everyone knows, like you just do D&D Beyond. We all use D&D Beyond. We all know how it works. It's 5 clicks. It's been promoted on every show in the world. Like we all know how it works. And that kind of like monolithic nature, I think makes it feel less crunchy. But in reality, Pathfinder 2e and D&D 5e have the same amount of crunch. Pathfinder maybe even less. It's just there's not a D&D Beyond out there.
Because I have heard that the Foundry Virtual Tabletop Pathfinder one is a particularly good, like at doing automating a lot of the stuff for you.
I've heard that as well. I haven't played it personally, but I've heard it's great.
Foundry's okay. Yeah, it does a lot of the math for you, so it's just a matter of pushing it. It's like D&D Beyond in some ways, where a lot of it's automated. For Pathfinder 2nd edition specifically. I don't know about other systems.
Because I've only just started dipping my toe into Foundry, and it seems to be like the best bits of Roll20 and the best bits of Fantasy Ground sort of combined. Like you got
That's
the
kind
whole
of the
dragon-
idea. Yeah, it sort of is that. I have one of my players who DMs sometimes, like just when like the main two DMs, which are myself, Izzy, need a break. They use VTT, and they've told me like, yeah, it's very much like if you took the best parts of Roll20 and the best parts of more of like a character building asset, kind of smashed them together, add music, and it's great.
That's pretty wicked. I'm not gonna lie, it sounds really cool.
All right. Well, we have hit the point where we need to start thinking about getting signed off. So we have to draw a giveaway winner, and I would like to have everybody get the chance to remind everyone of who you are and where we can find you on social media. So, excuse me, I'm sorry, I've been coughing all night. I'm going to go in reverse order of the way that we went before, and we're going to start with Chris.
That's me. I am Chris, and I am the owner of Scald's Tale Entertainment LLC, where we run a couple of podcasts, including Wyvern's Aria. It's 5th edition D&D with dragons and cyberpunk, kind of an amalgam of that, as well as Throwing Bones, which is a queer-led Monster of the Week podcast involving teachers saving kids effectively from monsters. And so if you're interested in that, you can find that at Scald's Tale on Twitter, or if you want to see pictures of my daughter, you can go to at Scald's Tale on Instagram and see her eat chicken nuggets, much to the dismay of my vegetarian wife. That happens more. It was her birthday this week, and all she asked for was chicken nuggets. Like, can we get chicken nuggets today? She's 3, and we can't say no. Not on her birthday. So you can find me at Scald's Tale in many places, and we have a pretty big Discord community as well.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming to hang out tonight. It's been really nice having you on and getting to know you a little bit. And next we'll head over to James.
Oh, hi, I'm James. I host the Chambers of Roleplay channel. We do play lots and lots of games that aren't D&D. However, like I said, in January we are starting Curse of Strahd, which is going to be my first foray into D&D 5e. Well, a campaign. I have dabbled D&D when it came out, 5e that is, when it came out. Yes, I'm looking forward to it because it's a story-based game, like Curse of Strahd type thing. You know, it's not like a dungeon crawl, which doesn't interest me in the slightest. I know Ravenloft technically is. Anyway, I'm getting off point. But yeah, we currently play we do Mutant Year Zero on Sundays. On Mondays, we're going to be having the Deadlands game that I've been sort of talking about. The times of 7 p.m. GMT, so whatever that is converted to your plus or minus GMT.
Let's see, I think we are, -5 on the East Coast, I believe?
That's like
Yeah,
-1
-5
p.m.
or
Central
-6.
Time, so like 2 p.m. Eastern Time, I think.
Yeah.
So Sunday Mutant Year Zero, Monday will be Deadlands, Thursday is Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, and then Saturdays will be Curse of Strahd. And it may have to change if this vaccine works and they roll it out too fast and I have to go back to work. We have a convention coming up on the 19th of December, the Convention of Role Playing. It's completely free. You can sign up at Warhorn and register for a game and have a day of playing games that you've never tried before. And that's really about me done. Follow me on Twitter if you're on Twitter, which is James Court TV. And also, I do have a YouTube channel as well. So on one of them will be a link to you where all my VODs go up. And there's like over 200 videos on there. So there's a lot to go through. And have fun. They're good. Yeah, I'm just going to say they're good because, that's how I do it.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you for staying up ridiculously late to hang out with us tonight. And
It's all right. It's only 3 a.m.
Only. It's only 3 a.m.
Only.
Lightweight right there, lightweight.
Right? Well, Cyclone Jack, why don't you tell us about your sleep habits lately? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, you don't want to know about
What's a sleep
those.
habit? What's that?
Yeah, right. Sleep habit? What's that? So I'm Cyclone Jack. You can find me on twitch.tv/Cyclone Jack, where I play a variety of games, including MechWar Online, The Division 2, GTA RP, spooky horror games like In Silence, Phasmophobia, Alien Isolation, and whatever else will scare me to the point where my chat can freak me out with jump scares. You can almost also find me on Twitter at CYKL0NE. I do a lot of different things and stuff, and I'm a huge supporter of the first responders and military vets in the world.
Yes, you do a lot of that. Well, thank you so much for coming on tonight, Jack. It's always a pleasure to get the chance to hang out, so I'm glad it worked out. And
Absolutely, thank you for having me.
yeah, my pleasure. And Chloe.
Yeah, you can find me over at The Legend of the Table. That's twitch.tv/The Legend of the Table, or at thelegendoftetable.com. You can find their links, of course, to our YouTube, our Twitter, our Discord community, the World Anvil, where we're constantly building new lore on our homemade world. We are a diverse cast of LGBTQIA content creators in various fields. We have several voice actors and voice actresses. We have an indie game developer. We have various writers and project managers. And we try to bring all of that content to you to help elevate LGBTQIA voices in this space. Our main streams are going to be Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday night at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central, and 6:30 Pacific time. So definitely come by and check out the continuing adventures. We have a brand new game starting on Tuesday called Corfei Chronicles, which is going to be a somewhat Harry Potter but not transphobic is sort of the pitch in terms of an academy game that'll be a lot of fun that you can come and join in. On Fridays, we have our alternating schedule of Aldrich Academy, which is another anime school, kind of like a My Hero Academia inspired game, and what we call the Hectic Verse, which is this crazy, chaotic set of games that are very talented and chat present Hectic Vexter runs. And then our main show on Saturday, or what's kind of been our longest running show, I should say, is Four Tour Fortunes, and we'll have episode 27 of that this upcoming Saturday. So definitely come by and check out all our incredible our incredible voice acting talent that's incredibly gay.
All right. Well, thank you. Sorry, we were correcting a link in chat. Thank you so
Totally
much for
good.
coming to hang out
Thanks.
and taking time out of your Sunday to hang out with us. So,
Yeah, thank you for having me.
yeah, my pleasure. All right. Well, the moment that everybody's been waiting for, we are going to give away some cookies. And
Cookies.
yeah, cookies. So get those last minute entries in if you haven't had the chance. ! Ticket. And I'm going to give it just another couple seconds to get any last minute entries in. Maybe, maybe not. I am closing the giveaway. And the winner is Cyclone Jack!
Fixed.
All right. That's awesome. I'm so excited that you won. Chat's like, rigged!
I think I'd like to give them away actually to a member of chat.
All right.
As awesome as it is, and I love the opportunity to have it. But I've seen one name in chat an awful lot, throwing good questions and hanging out and participating and supporting friends. I believe I've seen them for most of the night. Yeah, I have. I'd like to give away my box to Izzy Cats.
Oh, that's so nice of
Aw.
you. So, Izzy Cats, you are going to get the free dozen cookies. So, reach out to me. Either send me a whisper on Twitch, or you can connect with me on Discord, and we'll get you hooked up for your. Oh, good. And Cronsberry got her cookies today too. So, Cronsberry won our
Chloe's not
giveaway
allowed
on
any.
Wednesday.
No, I don't
Yeah,
You
just
have to
specifically
just watch.
Buck.
You just have to watch them eat him. That's it.
That's reasonable. That's valid.
Oh, well, Jack, that's super nice
I
of you. I
expect
appreciate that. All right.
Casey, I hope you enjoy the cookies.
Super. Well, thank you. And thank you all to everyone who entered. If you did not win any cookies and you would like to get some Critical Hit cookies for yourself, you can visit their website at criticalhitcookies.com. And when you check out, enter in shared EXP10 for 10% off your order. You can
I'm
also
gonna do my own one. I'm gonna do my own one called Bashing Biscuits or something. I
There
don't
you
know.
go.
Do an English version.
Bashing biscuits. I like it. I'm down. And also, you can visit our other partner online, which is Arcane Spectacles at arcanespectacles.com. And you can use the code SHAREDEXP for 10% off your order with them. If you are looking for any great gift ideas or, maybe a gift for yourself this holiday season, they also just started making some really cool ornaments that have dragons on them. I need to buy all of them because they're all amazing. Anyway, I am Gamer Mom Luna. This has been Tales from the Tavern. We are here every Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time. You can also catch us on Wednesday nights with our Pathfinder First Edition campaign, which is called 50 Shades of Crimson. And that is also at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And that has a really great cast and a fantastic DM, and we have a lot of fun with that as well. Coming up in January, we've got a brand new Star Wars campaign that will be launching on Tuesday nights. So look for that coming down the pike. And I think that's all the announcements I have for right now. So I'm going to find somebody for us to raid. Let's see. I don't know. Let's see. I don't see. Oh. I think we're gonna go raid Total Party Chill. They are doing some Dungeons and Dragons. So when we get over there, you all know the drill. And let me get the typing done. I can't type and talk at the same time because I end up saying the wrong thing.
Valid. No, multitasking hard.
I know. It's like, what? But I hope you all have a wonderful night. And again, thank you all so much for coming to hang out. And we will see you all again next week with another group. And hope you all have a great night.
Thanks so much.
Good night or good morning, depending on where you are in the world.